Okay, and let me share my screen. And let's do this. What, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. So good afternoon, everybody, and a very formal welcome to YWL Summit 2021. It's been 7 amazing days of inspirational stories of hope. And like someone said to me yesterday, said, how do I feel like all the stories are related? And I said, because our lives are very related. That's it. And like the Ubuntu theory says, I can only fully be myself if you're fully yourself. So all our stories are related, and I'm delighted that you're here to experience today's story with us. If you've missed the 6 stories, it's all available on YouTube. Just search with Doreen Baffo and you find them there. So just to remind you that YWL is premised on the Akan proverb that says, Obiasem Safwatu Ubipono. It just means that somebody's story may be that key that unlocks the door for another. I was listening to an author today and she said, it is not if you face adversity in life, it is when you face adversity in life. And so we share these stories just to prepare ourselves for when life throws a curveball at us, no matter how big or small, that we may learn from other people's experiences and be ready when any such thing occurs. But also, like one listener said to me 3 days ago, she said, I suddenly realized I am not alone. My story is not unique and I have hope to carry on. And I was delighted because that's what YWL is about. So a disclaimer before we get started, those who come to share their stories are not here in their capacity as psychologists, counselors, or psychiatrists. These are branch out stories of a time in one's life when life threw a curveball and how they handled it. So the insights are their insights, the lessons are their lessons as well. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Fouad Ogdi. I call him my boyfriend. His dad was my boyfriend to Daddy Jimmy. And at one time, Daddy Jimmy says, I have to tell you a secret about Fouad so that you won't like him as much as you do. And I'm like, yeah. And he shared one secret with me, and I came to tell Fouad, and Fouad shared another one, and I went back to Daddy Jimmy, and I'm like, he said, that foolish boy, he said that. So Fouad is a very good friend of mine, and he's a father, a husband, a friend, and a business leader. Fouad is particular about relationships and family. And one fun fact about Fouad, he says he loves Marmite, but it didn't do it for me. So I called his wife. I'm like, Sarah, give me one fun fact about Fouad. And then she said, well, he likes to boogie, but he doesn't know how to dance. And he moves his legs and arms around pretending he's dancing. But we all just say that he's boogieing, and it's a pleasure to watch. I'm like, yeah, I prefer that one. So thank you, Sarah. I did not for sharing that. Another fun fact, Fouad is a Liverpool supporter. And Sarah, I'm not going to tell you what he was doing on your wedding day, but Liverpool played on your wedding day. The rest, no. What, I didn't say that. No. And Liverpool is playing today as well at 4:30. So we better get this done so that Fouad can go listen to his team, watch his team, sorry. So Fouad, thank you so much again for coming on today's edition of YWL to share your story. I'm going to go off video so that it's all about you and your story, but I'll be in the background to support with the chat and Q&A. So for our listeners, if you have a question, hit Q&A, but if you have feedback and aha moment, hit the chat box and share that with us. Eunice says, wow, finally, I've waited so long to listen to Fouad. Thank you, Eunice Kwache. It's a delight to have you on the call as well. Okay, all right, so Fouad, let me hide my face and let's make this about you now. So over to you, my friend.
Okay, Doreen, thank you so much for everything. Thank you for bringing all of this together. Thank you to YWL Summit for giving the opportunity to participate in the series. I feel Well, I think I am the last speaker, so I feel like I should extend many thanks to the previous speakers, Stefan, Rosemond, Esther, Micah, and Crystal, for all your compelling stories. They have certainly made a tremendous impact in many lives today. So, to begin, my story is on the coming of hope. It's one where I could easily have fallen into a state of depression or anxiety. I think I remember my story very vividly, and I remember it like it was yesterday. Once upon a time, I was healthy, or at least I would like to think so. So the simple things in life I could do without any effort at all. So walking, running, swimming, jumping, going where I wanted to, when I wanted to, driving, all the little things. I could do them and I just wouldn't think about it at all. But little did I know what was in store for me. So in 2013, I was diagnosed with a very rare neurological condition called syringomyelia. And this happens where the cerebral spinal fluid flows back into your spine and form cysts. What it does is the cysts then destroys the spinal cord and the central nervous system. And this is usually caused by a spinal cord injury. And I must admit, in 1993-94, I did fall face first while I was trying to evade seniors all the way back in secondary school. But in those days, you just got up, you dusted yourself off, and you moved on. I also recall in university, my ankles would twitch and my legs would wobble a little bit when I positioned them in certain ways. But I thought nothing of it. So fast forward to 2013, it started with the tingling sensations in my arms and my hands, and then the burning sensations in my legs. If I took a drive from home to the office, I got out of the car. As soon as I got out, I don't know how to put it, but I would just get into this state of a stretching while I'm shaking. So if I had my keys or my books or anything in my hand, I just tend to drop them because my fingers would all just go stretched out. And it took me about 5 minutes to get myself together to start, walking from the car to my desk. I went for several tests. I remember going to the hospital where they had to put these needles in my fingers to try and ascertain what the problem was, but all of them became inconclusive. So, all of us are semi-doctors in our own right. So what did I do? I started to watch the way I slept. Maybe it was the wrong way, the shoes I wore, how I sat at work, paid attention to my posture, everything. And it's funny because it was only until after I was diagnosed that the symptoms actually heightened. So I was encouraged to see a neurologist. And one test we took was an MRI. And that moment, I remember it very well again. I went to see him, I had my slides, he took one out, he put it to his backlight window in the office, and he just said, wow. Then he turned and he looked at me and his eyebrows were inverted. And he said to me, you're going to the hospital right now. Now. He picked up the phone, he called Kolebu, which is healthcare facility in Ghana, and he booked a room. All this, and I was just sat there looking at him. And I don't know if you can describe a situation where any of you have felt the world slowly shutting down before your eyes. Well, that was happening to me, and it was in slow motion. I just couldn't understand what was going on or what was happening to me. And then the pain started. So there was extreme pain, there was pronounced tingling sensations in the arms and the legs. My palms felt like they were vibrating. So what happens with that is you don't feel things. Writing just hurt, holding anything just hurt. the burning sensations in my feet. If I wore my trousers, they hurt. If anybody touched them, they hurt. I also had lots of feeling to hot and cold. So if hot water splashed on me, I didn't feel it. And it was very different to when cold water splashed on me. I remember doing tests on myself. I could put a hot cup of coffee on my thigh and not feel anything. I mean, I'll be staring at it. And I know to myself that this should be burning, but it's not. And it feels just the same as a cold cup of water would. And that was very, very awkward. And then I also had the occasional twitch. So fast forward, we go to the hospital. There were streams of doctors and junior doctors who would come to visit. And all the time they got in, they usually came in batches. And all their faces were lit up because they had never seen anybody who had my condition, syringomyelia. So there were lots of questions, there was lots of prodding, lots of checking. What is happening? Do you feel this? Do you feel that? The doctors came to tell me that, there were exams being conducted at times. So I was used as a subject where the junior doctors would come in and they would test and see if they could, well, from their studies, see if they could recall what was happening to me. But I always knew it was for a good cause. And it would probably help people who later had conditions like mine. So I was fine with that. So all that, it was traumatic experience because we had to do a procedure, which was the spinal tap, which is where they insert a hollow needle in your spine and draw some of the feeling, the fluid. Now, I had a lot of time in bed, so I read a lot. I knew it was a needle. I knew it was not a small needle. And I knew it was going to be uncomfortable. And I remember when I heard the trolley come to my bedroom, I almost jumped out of the window because I was that afraid. I don't like needles. I don't care what anybody says. I don't like needles, but that's a different conversation. So I remember I had to fight with the doctors. I like to know everything that is going on. So I had them take me through a step-by-step process of everything they were going to do. They had to tell me what they were doing before they did it. And eventually we managed to get through that. So after that, it was lots of medications and going home to recover and basically get myself back together. I signed up for physio. And physio was interesting because at that point, I couldn't flex my arms. I had no strength in them. I had no strength in my feet. I had to get a driver to help me because I couldn't drive there on my own. And it was generally difficult. For physio, they had us do exercise. They had us run around the therapy room. And I recall I was always being overlapped by the old ladies because they were giggling and they were having fun, but I wasn't. I couldn't run. My feet felt wobbly every time I got into a little jog, a little stride. So it just slowed, it didn't make me go fast and the ladies just overlapped me. So I stopped that. I was clumsy and it took a lot of mental effort because most things I had to remind myself of what I was doing. If I was holding a cup, I had to apply extra pressure. If I was holding a pen, I had to hold it with extra energy. Otherwise, I would just drop it. And if I felt, there were moments when you felt something, it's like I don't know how to put it, but like a cape of electricity flowing through you. And I know I'm going to enter into a phase where I'll violently shake. So if I was holding a cup of hot coffee and I felt it coming, I had to quickly put whatever I was holding down because in a minute or two, the shake was going to happen. And if it happened while I was holding anything, everything just dropped. So that was very uncomfortable. And those who didn't know would, stare, look at you, and maybe pass a comment or two, but I mean, I knew what was going on with me. So in the end, I had to take a decision. I had to reinvent myself. I had to pick up myself and get back to work because work was waiting, my family was waiting. What happened was I had to visit other people who had similar conditions. And what I realized was that they were in a much more worse state than I was. There was a lady who had had 3 operations. She had visited India, the UK, the US, and in all of them, they were doing surgeries on the spine where they would cut a piece of it out. And I'm thinking, no way this is going to happen to me because I just was not mentally prepared for an operation of that magnitude. So I said to myself, if I am not going to do that, I might as well just really start on my self-rehabilitation journey and see how I could get myself back together. And there, I put myself through a strict regimen of physio. I didn't shy away from life. I started doing things that were difficult to me. I started exercising my arms, my feet, that sort of thing, because life generally had to go on. I had to rebrand. I accepted my personal limitations. I had to use a walking stick. Again, it wasn't something that I had done before, but I knew walking was difficult. Every step meant my foot or my ankle would shake. And if it did, I would stumble and then I would fall. I don't like going to the beach because it's just uncomfortable. I don't like walking on rocky ground because as long as my foot is not firmly placed on the ground, it could send me into a short spasm. And that is not, it's not comfortable. It's just not comfortable. I had to watch, again, steps I took, where I went, who I went with, what I wore, what I ate, everything. I had to do it, a new version of that. I have a diary where when I started this thing in 2013, I started writing every single thing that happened to me. So back then I was visiting the doctors very, very regularly. So if I felt a pinch, I wrote it down. I did my research. If I felt a tingle, I wrote it down. If anything happened, if I took this medication and this happened, I wrote it down. And the meds there was a lot of medication and some of them were really horrible to the extent that as soon as I take a look at the medications, I just go ill. And I remember going to the doctor to tell him there were some particular meds I just was not going to take because it made me feel drowsy, it made me feel nauseous, it made me feel ill, and I just could not take it. But all of that said and done, I couldn't accomplish all of this without God on my side. I mean, I'm not that much of a prayerful person, but it was time to start doing that. So with the help of my lovely wife, Sarah, we went to God, we prayed, and whenever I felt that the battle was being lost, we stuck to our guns, and Sarah has been instrumental in guiding me. She's been immense, and she's been by my side the whole time. So thank you, Sarah. I know I am a pain at times, but thank you for everything. There was family, there was friends who were very supportive as well. They stuck by me in every sense of the word. They helped me bring myself out of that dark place. Because at a time like that, when you couldn't go anywhere, you kind of felt left out of everything. When there was a function, you couldn't go. You had to make alternative arrangements. And if there was nobody who would be of help, then it meant you couldn't go. So I kind of felt that all these things were being lost on me. But family, friends helped me through this. And for that, I am grateful. At this moment, at this current point in time, I think I lead a very normal life. If you met me, you probably wouldn't know that I had a very serious neurological condition. I try to enjoy my life. I enjoy my family, my friends. I go to work. I still have the driver. My book is still handy. I still write all the different things that I think are changing in my body. And I try to bring those to the doctor's attention because I still go to the doctors every now and again just to be sure that I'm in the all clear. But with these things, you just still need to be very careful. So it's been a very long, hard road. It's been daunting, but I'm thankful that I have come through all of that. Everybody has been, well, everybody who got to know my condition has been very, very helpful. So I'm very thankful, and I'm very thankful that God has been on my side. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been out of this journey, this rehabilitation. So that is my story. Thank you very much. I'll leave it to Doreen to take over from here. I'm sure there may be some questions and we'll be ready for them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fouad, for sharing your journey. I still can't pronounce it. I try, but it's such a huge word. Can you say the condition again?
It's syringomyelia.
Okay, syringomyelia.
Myelia, that's right.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing that journey, for sharing the support that you got from the doctors, your family, your friends. To wrap up, what have you learned on this journey?
So what have I learned? I've learned that you still need, you still need God on your side. You still need friends and you still need family. It's always good to check on friends. It's always good to check on family because you never know when you might need that support from them. And they should always be there to offer that to you. So that is what I would say to that, Doreen.
Thank you so much for that. We all do need each other, is what Fouad is sharing with us. Our listeners on the call, if you have any questions, feedback you want to ask, Emilia says, man was not made to abide alone. Thank you, Emilia. Nicola says, so inspiring. Sarah Jessie says, indeed, thank God for wonderful spouses, family, and friends. Susan says, God bless you, Sarah, and God bless you, Fouad, for this amazing attitude towards the challenge. Cynthia says, thank you, dear wife, Sarah. Doris says, I hear courage, resilience, and audacity. You have prevailed. Bravo. And God bless you, Sarah. Susie says, oh, this is too short. Sarah should have joined to share more details. Sarah is actually on the call. And Jamil says, God bless you, Fouad and Sarah. Brilliant presentation. This was straight from the heart. So our colleagues, if you have any questions for Fouad on how he handled anything, you can either raise your hand or hit the Q&A so that we can ask for his insights on any thoughts that you have currently. Either raise your hand, hit the Q&A, and then we'll take that. All right, so whilst we wait for a question or a few questions or feedback, what was, throughout the journey, what was, Cynthia says, what's the name of the condition? Well, maybe you want to hit the chat box, because I don't think I can even pronounce it. It was syringomyelia. Okay, I'm not going to try. So Fouad is putting it in the chat box, and then we can all try to pronounce it wherever we are.
Okay, I'll do your.
Yes, he's putting it in the chat box so that we can read about it on our own as well. And Dory says, when is the book getting published to inspire more people?
A book.
Okay. Before you answer that,
I haven't thought about a book, let alone this presentation. This is the largest number of people I've had at one sitting where I have actually told this story. And yeah, it's just the largest. So I just might think about writing a short article, maybe not a book, but a short article.
Okay. And what I think you put it to only the host and panelists. If you could click on everyone, so that, because I can see it. Unfortunately, I can't copy and paste. But Eunice says, whilst you do that, Eunice says, I have watched and observed Fouad through this journey and always admired how he accepted his new self, and is always an encouragement for me. Well done, Fouad, for being such an inspiration. And Jamil says, a book. That's a brilliant idea. And Sarah Jessie says, thank you for being so vulnerable in sharing with us. Suzanne says, yes, we are honored. And Doris says, a doctor friend says, we are our own best health advocates in the hospital. Well done for your watchful eyes. And Fouad has just typed the condition, syringomyelia. Okay.
Certainly a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. It is a mouthful. Tioko says, Tioko, should I tell them who you are? But Tioko says, thank you so much. Fouad and I are grateful for, Tioko is Fouad's wife. Fouad and I are grateful for all the support and prayers. God bless you abundantly. Sarah, God bless you for being the amazing person that you are. From the first day I met you, you've been an absolutely amazing woman. Thank you ever so much.
Cynthia is saying, thank you. Men usually do not share.
Which is so true, isn't it? Yeah. She says men usually do not share. And I was sharing with Fouad this morning. I said, for an odd reason, in this part of the world, we raise our boys when they are growing up. If they tear up a bit, we're like, a man should not cry. It's almost like he cannot show emotions. And then a few years into his life, he meets someone, he's in love, and the girl now starts saying, but you need to show a bit more emotions. So this is the same gentleman we said can't show emotions, and suddenly he has to show emotions. Thankfully, we are learning to do things differently now.
So just to add, Doreen, what I used to do as well was I actually used to make fun of myself so that I would break that ceiling. When I felt my leg was going to a twitch, I would call somebody and say, just watch the leg, it's going to do something very silly. And then it will start shaking, and I'll say to them, do you see that? Just as a way of breaking the ice, breaking that barrier to get comfortable with myself. And I think I did that pretty well. And most people who know me probably knew of the things I was going through and what I was feeling and how I was feeling. So it kind of made it easier.
Yeah, yeah. And thank you so much for that. I actually remember the first time I saw you holding the walking stick, and I wasn't sure what to say or to feel. And I remember you said something that made me laugh. And I remember thanking God for a sense of humor that day. So thank you for sharing that. A sense of humor, your sense of humor also helped you in that. Micah says, thank you so much, Fouad, for sharing. Sarah Jessie says, first time of hearing this condition. I totally agree with you. Yeah, I mean, the first time he mentioned it to me as well, he had to share with me quite a number of links to go read about it. I'm like, what's this, you know? Tioko says, actually, yes, Tioko, I've told the whole world who you are. Sarah Jessie says, Sarah is amazing. Sarahs are amazing. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you on that. Actually, all the Sarahs I know are amazing. You're one amazing human being as well, Lady Sarah. Helena is Fouad and I. Helena and I are Fouad's girlfriend. Sarah, you heard that. You knew from the beginning. So Helena says, Sarah,
thank you, Marie. Thank you for.
God richly bless you. What do? We thank God for you and for making us laugh in spite of everything. Micah says, oh, wow. And Tioko says, yes, indeed, Sarah. Thank you for letting the truth out. She's talking about Sarah's being amazing people. I see in the Q&A, Emilia says, do you have to deal with stigma? Did you have to deal with any kind of stigma during your journey, Fouad?
Well, so yes, I mean, when you take out the way you walked, taking out the walking stick, people look at you differently. So that, I mean, I had to crack jokes, like I said, to make it comfortable for myself, because everybody who took a look at it said everything apart from "Are you ill?" They thought it was for fashion or the sort. But I mean, look, I think I just stuck to my guns, and that certainly pushed me all the way through. But yes, there was a good amount of stigma.
She asks another question as well. She says, what advice would you give to someone fighting a terminal condition, terminal sickness, she says?
Well, first thing is you need to be very prayerful about everything. You need friends and family. You need the support, because these things are tough, and you certainly cannot go on this journey on your own. So you need to be very mindful of that. And once you have them around you, guiding you, supporting you, you would go on the right path, and the rehab journey would be quicker and much, much smoother. You need all the love you can get, because you can definitely become an introvert, shun yourself, because everybody would speak about me, everybody would say this, you're shy, you don't want to talk about it, and you just hide yourself. I say open up to everybody, those closest to you especially, family especially, and it probably would be a much better decision.
Thank you so much for that, Fouad. A friend of mine, and God bless her soul, she passed, but during her journey with a terminal condition, she said one of the things she learned during her journey was to allow others serve her, the people who loved her. Because she was one who always gave, it was a strange thing to sit back and now allow others help. But she said she realized that when her son did that for her, especially clean her up, there was some gratitude on his face. And she said to me, just accepting that I couldn't do that and that it was okay for him to do that was part of her journey as well. Thank you so much, Fouad, for opening up. Susan says, do you know any others with your condition? And if yes, do you support each other?
So in the beginning, we kept contact. I got to know two people. I visited one of them, spoke to the other, and we sort of kept in contact. She had it way before I did. So it was more of me going to her to find out how she was coping, the things she did, how she sorted herself out when she had situations, things like that. And this went through a period until I think she traveled, and then the contact somehow got lost. But yes, I think it's also good to find people who are within that same boat in which you find yourself in, and bounce ideas off of each other. And that would be a great way to start.
Thank you so much for that. Crystal said yesterday, the speaker yesterday, she said, once she started sharing her story, she found 200 other people who had a similar story. So thank you for that. Yours is so rare. And you said, so 2 people that you know.
Correct.
Yeah.
2 people.
Yeah.
2 people.
Thank you. Sarah Jessie says, Fouad mentioned not being a prayerful person way back then. How did this condition influence your faith?
Well, like I said, it's a new me now. So these are things that you change from the old way of doing things into the new way. It's made me more mindful. It's made me more into being spiritual and being one with God. So it definitely brought me in the right direction.
Definitely brought him into the right direction, the new him. Susie says, how will you describe the support of your organization during these times?
Okay, so it was brilliant, because one of the things I did one of the things I managed to do before I got into the hospital was to call work to give them the news. And they were very supportive. They said, go take as much time as you can. I think I was out of work for 3 months, 3 or 4 months, I think. And they were very supportive of everything. They didn't bog me down. They didn't harass me. They just checked on me to make sure there was anything that I needed. So for that, I am very grateful, because you wouldn't get many places where something like that would happen. You know, it's
work for a great organization. Would you want to acknowledge them?
Well, I work at Stanbic Bank, for Stanbic Bank. That's right, Stanbic Bank.
So thank you, Stanbic Bank. Thank you so much for being an employer of choice. This from Susan says, would early detection have contained progression?
Yes. Because right at the tail end of my visits to the hospital, I remember the doctor said they had another patient who had come in. She had just finished, I think it was university graduate, I think it was. And she was treating this traditionally. And from his opinion, they had wasted so much time. So what happens is, when the cyst starts, it first starts small and it grows as the damage gets worse. And the more it grows, the more you feel wrong with your body. The traffic of nerves that move from brain to body they just go in the wrong direction. It's like a very bad traffic situation. And everybody going on the side road, everybody turning back, hot becomes cold, cold becomes nothing, left becomes right, and it's just totally disorganized. So an early detection, yes, because there was medication to help the cyst go down. So not necessarily cure, but no more progression. So yes, early detection would have certainly helped. But with these things, you can't say. You really would not be able to tell. It may take a while before it is detected. In my case, thankfully, we did an MRI, we checked it, the right doctor checked it, and he was able to spot it, and we took it from there. So yes.
Thank you for that. And thank you all for asking your questions. So listen to your body. You are your body's best doctor. Listen. This one says, do you have any triggers?
So triggers as in?
Is there anything that triggers the feeling currently?
So I know that if I get cold, I would shiver. When I shiver, it's not good. I just go into this phase where I spasm out. I know that I need to watch where I walk. I still watch where I walk and where I go. I still don't drive around as much, because prolonged sitting just makes my thighs and my feet wobble. I still have tingliness. I still have issues with hot and cold. So it's awkward, it's uncomfortable, but I mean, I'm dealing with what it is. At least, thank God, progression is not there. I just containment. So what is with me is what is staying with me. We don't have any progression, and I'm just trying to make the best out of whatever is given to me.
Thank God for that. And Susan says, awareness definitely needs to be created about the signs and symptoms. And especially because you say you fell in school and you didn't make anything from it. And suddenly I'm thinking in my head, okay, you know, you were running away from seniors and you fell.
Yes.
I'm wondering.
And this is going back, this is all that I could remember in terms of falling down really hard.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, I had a lot of time to read and think in the hospital. So when I was given the information, my mind just drifted to throughout my life. What did I do? What could I have done? They said it could have been a cough, a violent cough that would cause this, or they would term it as idiopathic, where it just happened. I can't really tell which one it was. All I know is it happened and it happened to me.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that recently a friend of mine went through an MRI as well. And one of the doctors said to him, if you think back to your life before age 7, was there a time when you had a fall on your face? And he said he had to call his mother. And his mother said, yes, you were 3 and it was bad. And so he went back to the doctor and the doctor said, yes, that's what we're looking for. You know, so I'm saying to myself, you know, those things that happen, that the body is an amazing body. And like you're saying, we listen to it and report as quickly as possible. Thank you all for all the questions. Thank you, Fouad, for taking your time to answer. And today being the last edition of YWL 2021, let's wrap up with some, just a bit of thought for all the sessions and today's session as well. And I'll just ask you to grab a notepad or your phone if you can use it to take notes. And I'm just going to ask you, I'm going to say, what have you learned about life or about yourself from this session or any of the other sessions that you've been on? What have you learned about life or about yourself from this session or any of the other sessions that you've been on? And I'm going to stop sharing so that we can have a very short conversation, a 5 minute, 10 minutes, and so that Fouad can go watch Liverpool. 10 minutes, and we're and we're there. And then what?
I have time, Doreen. I have time. This is not
okay. All right, sure. And what would be your key takeaway from YWL 2021? So what have you learned about life and about yourself, about any situation you're going through or you have gone through from this session or from any of the other sessions that you've been on? And what are your key takeaways? I'm going to stop sharing so that we can have a family conversation. And how we're going to do that is I'm just going to enable you to speak. So please feel free to raise your hand. We'd love to hear your voice as we wrap up 2021 YWL. It's been 7 amazing, inspiring stories. If you've missed any of them, just search on YouTube for with Doreen Buckman. You should find them to watch. So what have you learned about life, about yourself from this session or any of the other sessions? What, I see your hand raised?
Yes.
Okay.
One thing I learned is if life gives you lemon, you need to make jollof out of it. I like that quote, and I think it totally encapsulates everything that this session strives to share with everybody. Life is short, can be difficult, can be lonely and hard, but whatever has been given, you need to make the best out of it. And that definitely struck a chord from one session, one earlier session. So that has been great.
Thank you. If life gives you tomatoes, you have to make jollof. Fouad says life is short and it's unpredictable, and you need to make the best out of it. Nanako, I'm going to enable you to speak. As we wrap up this evening, it's about hearing each other. Thank you all for being on the call. So Nanako, I've enabled you to speak, unmute yourself.
Okay.
And share.
So personally, I've learned a lot looking at the sessions from the first, from Fouad's story to the lady who talked about accepting who you are and all that. I think for me, it's about taking things one at a time, enjoying the life that we have, and learning to unlearn some of the things along the way. And picking from Fouad's experience, it's about monitoring your health and your body and ensuring that all the small changes that you see, you take note of it and consultants to guide you. What I've learned from his is documenting the things that you go through in life. He mentioned how he was keeping note of all the changes of his body, and it's one of the things I think I'll take out of this session to do, because there are days you see certain changes, but you ignore them and you move on with life. Oh, it's one of those things. But moving forward, I think it's more of paying attention to my body and enjoying life and making the best out of it.
Thank you so much, Nana Paul. I'm going to, Susie has her hand up, so I'm just going to enable Susie to talk as well. Susie, please speak now.
Hi, Doreen. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been an amazing week for me, just following all your guests. And the impressive thing I am taking away is that our lives are so connected. For most of your speakers, there's one word that you keep hearing along their story. If it's not ugly, if it's not inspiring, that it is something else. I had a family member who was going through a similar thing Fouad was going through. So I remember calling Fouad every now and then, just to compare notes, to share notes. And I knew how the person was feeling and was beginning to deteriorate. So every now and then I kept saying, Fouad, are you okay? Is everything okay? And I know every now and then I'll ask him, how about your leg? Is it still shaking? How does it feel? Oh, crack jokes about it. So I've been inspired by his journey so far. And for me, I think what has really helped Fouad is his positive mindedness. He's so positive about what is happening to him. It will not let him down. I call Fouad every now and then and he's at work. He's working. And I'm like, are you sure this is fine just for you to go on working? And he's like, Susie, I'm okay. I'm fine. I just have to get on. So I've been inspired the whole of this week with the life-changing stories of all your guests. You just have to listen to someone's story that you know that you really don't have an excuse. You really don't have an excuse. You have to just keep going on and be yourself and share. Because when you share, you inspire others to become better versions of themselves. So Fouad, please, thank you for sharing, but please, we need more details. So the general...
Susie has 80 years. Susie, thank you so much. I have to read this one. Before I read this one, though, Fouad, I think I must mention your mother as well, Auntie Dolly. And this is the first time I'm telling you, but countless times she called, and she would call with one question: Doreen, have you checked on Fouad? And I said, yes, Mom, actually, we spoke yesterday. So behind the scenes, your mom, and I'm sure she called several other people, and I'm sure, yeah, that's the love of a mother. So solid support system, and I thought I should acknowledge her today as well. I was going to read Kwame Chum's text, but I'm going to allow him to talk. So Kwame, you've been enabled. Just unmute yourself and speak, please.
I'm so sorry I'm going to say this, but okay, sorry, I'm Kwame Chum. Most of you don't know me. I've literally been followed it, but then I followed it through Fouad because we had conversations. I've known Fouad since 1987. Went to Form 1 together. We're in Jamfi House in Achimota School. So when I say I know Fouad, I know him through and through, proper. So fast forward 20 plus years, we went to London together, did everything. You know, yeah, I've known Fouad for years. I've known Fouad's mom, dad, I've known everybody, Nadim, name it. So every time I came to Ghana, I looked up Fouad. But there were 2 years where I came continuously and I just couldn't get hold of Fouad. I'll speak to him all right, but I couldn't see him. And it didn't make sense to me. I didn't tell you Fouad. But I went about and I'm thinking, I see Fouad all the time. What's going on? Then I found out Fouad wasn't well. I was very upset, but I respected his privacy in the fact that he wouldn't say it. But as time went on, yes, Fouad and I hooked up, we spoke about it. And the Fouad I knew from 87 to the Fouad I know today, I must admit, two different people. I seriously didn't see that coming at all. Fuad has grown to become, should I say, a very helpful person who looks out for other people other than himself, even though he has a predicament which we should be looking out for him. We look, I'm not sure who the caller was before, the one that we just said the message before I'm speaking, right? You think you crack jokes with Fuad. We laugh at him about his leg. And he's one of the first people that will crack a joke about his leg. We laugh about him. I mean, we laugh about all sorts of things. But Fuad has encouraged, should I put it this way? I'm sorry, Fuad, I'll say this. Jumping 92, my year group, he's encouraged every single person in there to look out for each other. This is something you guys wouldn't know because you're not part of Jumping 92. Fuad has gone out of his way to set up a welfare policy for us and for the whole of our Chimota 92 year group. He's championed the whole thing because Fuad feels we should look out for everyone. I mean, now the welfare policy is for just a few people, but Fuad wants to push it further for everybody to get it. And for me, I want to say thank you because he's opened my eyes to a whole lot of things. So many different things which I would never have done that. But I work with Fuad and we do these things. Thank you, Fuad. And if anything, let him know and we will help you do it. Thank you so much.
Kwame Tunes, thank you so much. Fuad,
now you can read what I said. Don't tell you.
Yeah, there's one that sticks closer than a brother, the Bible says. It's thank you, Kwame, for sharing that. I also want to acknowledge Susan. Susan has been on every YWL Summit call for 2021. And Susan, I'm sure you want to share with us what's it that you've learned about yourself and your lives as we wrap up YWL 2021. So I've just enabled you to speak.
Trust you to out me. Oh, but it's been amazing. I've enjoyed every single one. And for me, it's just that human connection, isn't it? You know, you're sitting in your little corner in your bubble thinking, oh, woe is me. And then you hear all these inspiring stories, and then you look at yourself and you're like, you've really got no excuse.
Yeah.
I think I shared in the chat what I've learned about life from everyone who has shared is that no condition is permanent and that you can live life by design. You can be intentional in the way and manner you live your life. And the other thing is that, where did I put that? I put that up here as well. That at the end of the day, it's all about your response and your responsibility with a play on response.
Absolutely.
It's all in the way you respond to the event. So those are my greatest takeaways, and it's just been amazing. Somebody shared in the chat about Micah and forgiveness. That was also powerful. And I think even from last year, because last year I hopped in and out. This whole thing about forgiveness really being about you and not about the other person, because you keep yourself in bondage when you don't forgive. So it's just been a blessing. It's been amazing. It was a no-brainer. I mean, this time has been sacred for me, you know, every day. I just push everything and make sure I am on this call. So well done to you. Well done to all the presenters. You've all been amazing. And Fouad, thank you so much for sharing. What an eye-opener. What an eye-opener. I just, I mean, I clearly don't have the condition, but I just feel that there should be some support group. I think there should be some, because it's so out of the ordinary. I mean, I just feel you never know if there's some child who is exhibiting symptoms and their parents are unaware. It's just so unknown. I feel a lot of noise needs to be made about it. Or I don't know how much noise you're making. I certainly didn't hear it till today. But yeah, so, and as your friend said, I mean, we're all here to support in however way we can to spread the word to, I don't know, whatever. So thank you all.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you so much. Micah just put in the chat box that Doreen, I've been in every session too. Micah, not only was Micah, not only has
Micah, yours was last year. Leave me to enjoy my moments.
Not only has Micah been in every session that happened last year. Last year we had 12 amazing sessions. She's also been in every session this year. And on top of that, she spoke in one session. She spoke in a deeply moving session about her life. So Micah, thank you so much. Before I allow Micah to speak, I'm going to put somebody on the spot. And Sarah, forgive me for doing this, but I just feel that because it's Fouad's Day, maybe there's something you'd like to say as well. So Sarah, I've enabled you to speak. Sarah is Fouad's wife. Joko, are you still there?
Yes, hi, Doreen, yes.
Great.
Thank you. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
Right, thank you. Thank you all so much for today, for listening out and everything. Most importantly, we would thank God for everything, for all that has happened and for all that is going on. We pray that you always be supportive of each other, and let's all keep going and living and thank God for our lives. Yes, so yes, Fouad, I love you very much. And keep being the wonderful husband you've always been. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Fouad just had to scratch his eye, Fouad.
He's always doing that. He's always doing that anytime I tell him sweet things. He's always scratching his head. Yes.
So that's another fun fact.
Yes, so Doreen, thank you all and everybody so much.
Sarah, thank you as well. Thank you so much. And there's a lot in the chat box, and I just want to appreciate all of you. I see what you've learned about life and yourself in these 7 days. If you've missed any of the sessions, they've all been recorded, so you can go back and listen to them. Thank you so much. I see your comments. Our lives are connected. The best version of ourselves is possible if we don't break down. And I've had an amazing support system as well. And I see that my husband has raised his hand. He knows Fouad as well. So I'm sure he has something to say. But I'm going to enable you to say something really short as we wrap up today's session. Thank you, Eko. Unmute yourself, please.
Thank you, Doreen. Sarah, before I appreciate all other callers, let me appreciate you for the love you have for Fouad. Ever since, through till now, I've always, in spite of the challenges that confront Fouad, you've made him a happy man, supported by people like the girlfriend celebrating the birthday. On the call, I see Helena, Susie, my secret lovers. They don't know the extent to which I admire them, and I appreciate them for the extent to which they love Fouad. And Fouad, you are a lucky man. But more importantly, I just want to encourage all loved ones, Doreen, Susie, Helena, please keep the love that you have for Fouad. I believe your love has sustained him all through this period. But for all other callers who've called on this celebration, the celebration of Doreen's birthday, I want to appreciate and express my love for you all. Fouad, continue with your positive, aggressive believing. Thank you all.
Thank you, Eko.
And thank you, Eko. Eko doesn't have a choice but to be on every YWL session, whether he's at home or not. He joins on his phone. And so Eko, thank you as well for being the man that you are. Thank you so much. And Micah, I see your comments. Hats off and absolute respect to your husband. Always, always there. Mr. Micah will be learning from him. We'll be having him as a mentor. Why? Yes, when Mr. Micah shows up, straight sessions, deliberate sessions, guaranteed. Thank you so much, Micah. I want to acknowledge all of you. Lady Sarah, Susie is I read a comment on Instagram 2 days ago about women not supporting each other. And I'm like, clearly that's not been my story. The ladies on this call have been exceptional in my life. Susie for sharing the word everywhere. Susan for showing up all the time, Doris for listening as she drives, Ekua for even giving gifts on the session, Micah for journeying with me, Sarah for showing up and being there, Lady Sarah for all the love that she exhibits, Asantua, who is practically my sister, Ajua Cassandra, yeah. Emilia was on almost every session last year and she showed up this year as well. Eunice, whom I know that it's Eunice, you know Eunice, right? Cecil's wife. And I just want to say thank you, Eunice. Congratulations on the birth of your baby girl. And I hope that these sessions make you the intentional mother that you've always craved to be. And Yunam, thank you for showing up. Helena, it's an amazing, amazing lady. At one time in my life, when life threw a heavy curveball, as people walked in and out to console and share advice with me, she called on the phone, she prayed, and she broke down and she wept. Helena, thank you. The love, I know is deep. But to Fuad's family and friend as well, I see his brother on the call, his friends are on the call. Kafui, thank you so much. Matilda, thank you all so much. And Sweet, my daughter, thank you. So on behalf of myself and the team for all the support, I just want to say thank you for joining with us this 1 week as I celebrated my birthday, and people came along with me to share with the world their life stories, how life through them kept going, and how they handled it. Again, like the author, I think she's Sheila Spielberg, I hope I mentioned her name well, but she says it's not if you face adversity, it is when you face adversity. But like Crystal, the speaker from yesterday said, she said, let's start sharing our stories so that others may heal. So this is how we wrap up YWL 2021. And until I see you, God willing, next year from the 8th to the 14th of August. And God give all of us life so we can meet and share inspiring stories of hope to help each other move on. Thank you all so much. Fouad, thank you again. God bless you.
Thank you, Doreen.
Yeah. And I see the messages coming through as well. Susie says, anything for you, Doreen. You're a supportive girlfriend as well. Thank you. I'm going to stop.